Good evening. Tonight we have with us American choreographer Margo Sappington, a very talented and very red-haired person. But before we get to talk to her, let's have a little look at a compilation of her work. Thank you, thank you. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Margo Sappington, ladies and gentlemen. Margo, dancer, choreographer. What is your first love, actually?
Well, I started, of course, dancing. I was invited by, I started when I was a little girl dancing. I grew up in Texas. And when I was 14, I used to go to a lot of dance conventions, Regional Dance America, things of that sort, and met Robert Joffrey, whose company was in New York City at the time.
Robert Joffrey Ballet.
The Joffrey Ballet. And so he started watching me when I was 14 and encouraging me. And when I was 17, he invited me to come and join his company. So I was one of those very, very lucky individuals that got to come to New York with a job. I didn't come to New York with my suitcase with stars in my eyes. I came with stars in my eyes in the suitcase.
Right.
But I had a job.
Which is fantastic,
so
because usually artists come with a lot of dreams and not much in terms of jobs.
Beat the pavement. And I left on the red eye from Texas, from Houston. My parents took me to the airport. I arrived in New York City at 5 o'clock in the morning, and at 10 o'clock in the morning I was in company class on 10th Street and 6th Avenue, yeah.
Were your parents supportive of that?
They were very supportive. I can't believe now to this day my mother didn't cry when she sent me off. She sent me off. She cried later, but not when she took me to the airport. It was very wonderful.
Once you realized your bedroom
that
was
I was
empty.
gone, yes.
Yes. So you arrive in New York, and a few hours later you're already rehearsing.
Yes. Yes, so it was wonderful. It was I had to, at that time there were only 3 big ballet companies: New York City Ballet, American Ballet Theater, and the Joffrey Ballet, and everything else was provincial.
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
so
Joffrey Ballet was one of the major.
Yes,
companies.
and now of course there are many wonderful companies across America, and I can encourage dancers to go to San Francisco, to the Houston Ballet, to Pacific Northwest in Seattle. You know, there are many wonderful companies. Milwaukee Ballet,
and
Kansas
at the
City
time,
Ballet.
No, it was not.
No,
so
they were all sort of glorified small. Semi-professional companies.
Semi-professional companies.
San Francisco had a good big company at
Boston
the time.
maybe also, or not even?
No, not yet.
Not then.
Yes, not then.
Not then. So New York was really
New York was it.
the hub.
There was no place to go but New York.
No place to go but New York.
You didn't make it unless you came to New York. You know.
So had you ever been to New York before, or suddenly you
Yes,
arrived?
I had visited. My aunt actually lived in New York, and that first year I stayed with her. For almost a year I stayed with her.
So it was a smooth transition into New York life.
Yes, so I had a relative to stay with.
Until you got 18, where you were old enough to have your own apartment.
Well, I'll never forget. No, it was before then. When I said, Mom, can I move out, please? Can I get out of
really?
Because she was more strict than my parents had been, as far as keeping tabs on me. Because, I wasn't her child, so she was very, very protective. And
right, probably very nervous about you.
Yes,
in the big
I
city.
remember. I remember calling her. I was with, I had gone to dinner at 2 of the dancers, a gay couple, some of my best friends, Ray and Frank, and it got to be 1 o'clock in the morning, and I called up my aunt and I said, I'm going to stay over with Ray and Frank, and she said, oh, no, you're not. You are not
and
staying
Frank,
over.
yeah,
You're
with
not
two
staying
boys.
with
I
Ray
mean,
and Frank.
spending
You are
the
coming
night
home.
with two boys at
Oh, yes.
17
No,
or
no,
18,
yeah,
it's like,
right.
wow,
No,
for
no,
an aunt,
you're
it was
coming-
terrible, of
yes,
course.
yes.
So you had to
So
go
I,
home.
so I got home.
You got home.
Yes.
So when you entered the Joffrey, was there a system of like core and soloist and
No, the
principals?
Joffrey was an alphabetical order company. There, and if a choreographer came, or if, for instance, the first year I had a major part I had a pas de deux that was choreographed on me when I made my debut in the Delacorte Theater. There used to be dance at the Delacorte Theater.
And you had a pas de deux made for you?
Yes,
or?
yes, that
By
very first
who-
year. By Gerald Arpino, yeah, who was the resident choreographer of the company.
Yeah.
And then Jerry, of course, went on to become the director of the company. They moved to Chicago. He just passed away this year.
Oh,
Past
sorry
year, yeah.
to hear that. So the very first year you were already dancing a
I was
pas de
already,
deux, which
I was
your
already,
pas de deux.
dancing principal part.
How many dancers were there in the company?
There were, at that time, there were 21 dancers.
21 dancers.
Yes.
Was it as difficult as it is now for companies to survive and
Yes,
live and make a living?
His company was, in fact, he had a patroness. It was Rebecca Harkness, and she funded the company completely. And there came a time when her lawyers and her trustees and whatever said, actually, you must have the company in your name. It must be called the Harkness Ballet. And Bob Joffrey couldn't do that. He had to be called the Robert Joffrey Ballet, so he split with her completely, started all over with new financing, and started from scratch.
But why
So
did she
it's
want that? Why, I'm sorry.
It was some legality. I
Some
don't know.
legality,
and
yeah.
the dancers actually were under contract to her, so most of them ended up staying, and it became the Harkness Ballet. And I later went on to choreograph when I became a choreographer to choreograph for that company, for the Harkness Ballet.